In Battletech, in battle, interesting things happen all the time. And in this Tactica vlog, it's more of a rules question. I want to share with you something that came up in a recent game, how we resolved it, which I think is important in Battletech, and then asking the question, where the heck is this rule? I thought it was in Total Warfare somewhere, but we can't always be correct or not. So this was the situation. Two lances going at each other, really intense. And one of the mechs went down, got actually both of its legs blown off. It was a light mech that got a little bit too aggressive, got up there, both of its legs blown off. Things transferred damage-wise, but it was still up and running. So in terms of being able to prop itself up and fire, was able to do that. Still counted as initiative. You can activate it and do something. Still in the game. And on a sidebar, one of the things that we talked about was understanding how important initiative is. And once a mech gets knocked out, yes, you're losing the battle value, you're losing the firepower, you're losing the positioning, but you're also losing a piece to move in initiative order. You lose, if I've got two lances, you lose 2 or 3 mechs. Just even with good tactics, you're very quickly going to become surrounded and be at a disadvantage. So, as much as I like to fight to the end, even if we're not playing with force withdrawal, sometimes you've got to navigate that question. All right, this machine has taken some damage. How much damage can I still continue to dish out reliably versus if I do get destroyed, the loss of the initiative? If all I have left is one autocannon and everything else is blown up and smoking, then maybe I'm better off just running to the corner and hiding and staying alive just for that initiative piece. All right, we've got that framework, that question. So the question was, I'm advancing, my opponent's there. When I get close enough, that mech that was down, that light mech, that's like a save for later. I had some bigger problems going on in terms of I want to engage with the mechs in front of me, deal with that, begin to push them back. I was using my stalker, taking a little bit more damage than I would have liked, but using that stalker as a wedge to push forward to drive them back and give them incentive to drive back, because the incentive was the hex map we were playing on. There was some good cover. So it made sense. Fritz is advancing, move into the cover, gain that advantage. Then I was going to take out that light mech, and then I was going to pull back and start leveraging the initiative. You know, look, that was the plan. Sometimes it works out, sometimes other times it doesn't quite work out. So I'm advancing, and my opponent says, well, can I drag the mech? Can I take a mech, a medium or a heavy? In this case, it was a medium, so I guess it had the strength. And he's like, I'm behind the downed light mech. Can I pick it up and physically drag it with me? So, I don't know. All the years I've been playing Battletech, like, we've had some weird stuff before that isn't quite in the rules. Like, one time was against the clans. I was hot dropping in just tons and tons of infantry from my Karnovs. And I was on a vulture, swarming with infantry. We're just swarming with infantry. And the vulture player was like, well, I don't have hands, so I can't smack the infantry off. How can I get them off? Could I, like, voluntarily roll around on the ground and, take a 5.1 elevation damage spread and see if I can kill infantry? Well, makes sense. I mean, it's not really in the rules, right? Because you got to have hands to brush off infantry, but you could stop, drop, and roll. So, yeah, right? The spirit of the rules. Another time, it was interesting. We were fighting on this kind of elevated bridge area. And my friend and I both had a machine up there fighting each other, firing off at long range. But, like, we were already up there and we're already shooting, and the rest of our lances are kind of under this bridge area. Ruined bridge, blown up in half. We're both out of ammo. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to pick up like a car or something, because we had miniatures there, Z-scale, little miniatures, fantastic board. He's like, I want to pick this up and I want to throw it at you. Well, I guess you could, right? You could pick off blown limbs and you could pick up trees and things like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick something up. I'm going to pick this truck up, and I'm going to throw it at you. So we agreed, like, short range is 1, long range is 2, medium 2, long range 4, and, whatever does 1 point of damage. So occasionally these things come up where you're like, okay. So within that framework, the idea was the spirit of the rules. So in looking at it, we both agreed, like, yeah, you should be able to. If you have a machine that's a medium mech and it's stronger, and you have the ability with hands, meaning you got 2 hands and they're not damaged, you could kind of pick it up and drag it, let's say 1 hex per turn. And I would say that while you're doing that, we agreed, like, you can't fire any hand weapons or arm-mounted weapons, but maybe not even torso, but you could maybe, if there's a torso weapon, fire, depending on the location. So yeah, why not? Now, agree or disagree? You're like, Fritz, it's right here, man. How'd you miss it in the rules? So generally speaking, I am trying to win, but I'm also trying to give my opponent a good game. And I'm trying to create some magic here, right? We're stepping out of space and time, doing this wargaming thing. Like, I want something cool to happen. So if you come up with a cool idea and it's possible in the rules, like we can bolt some rules using reason over it, or it sort of makes sense, yeah, why not? Look, it's not going to, if that costs me the game, if you're a great idea, costs me the game, then, I really wasn't winning that much on there. But if something like cool could happen, then yeah, why not? So often when these questions come up, I'll take the approach, if in the spirit of the game, if we can adapt the rules to do it, absolutely, go ahead. Absolutely. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens. Maybe we didn't have to make a pilot check. Probably looking back now, it's like you should have had to make a pilot check first because you're in the middle of the battle, firing and stuff. That would have been interesting if you fell over, right? Try to get up, fall over again, crazy stuff like that. But generally, like, yeah, let's find it in the rules and let's do it. Because who knows, something like really cool could happen. Now, where that kind of sidebars, it's not so much a Battletech thing. If this was a tournament or competitive type play, or if I was playing once or twice, usually the stars have to align, we'll play a Battletech campaign with 4 or 5 different players. So each week you're playing a potentially different player, kind of for rankings and bragging rights and C-bills. So in that case, like, if it's not in the rules, then I would say no. If it's a tournament type thing, then I would go to the tournament organizer or the event organizer and say, hey, make a ruling on this. I wouldn't generally do that in a casual game or just us playing Battletech. I would default to find the rules that look sensible and let's do it. So I did let him drag the machine back. Eventually I had to tag it. My Marauder tagged it, blew it up on there, and took it out because they were going to drag it back into the forest. Then they had a good superior position with the terrain. I'm hanging out there, and the game continues on. So your opinion when something like that comes up in the rules, I would say, and I've done this occasionally if we agree to disagree, which is very, very rare for me. In other wargaming systems and stuff where someone wants to do something, I'm like, yeah, okay, like, absolutely. But if there is an agree to disagree situation, which it happened once, where I was shooting, my opponent had a Land Raider, Warhammer 40,000. This is like a giant tank. Think of like a behemoth super tank. And the board that we were playing on had fixed terrain, buildings and stuff like that, but it also had built into it texturized rocks, just to give it some kind of visual eye appeal. And one of the rocks was maybe like, whatever, half an inch. Put down some PVC glue, put down some sand and rocks and stuff, spray paint it black, highlight it gray, and then dry brush a little bit of white on it, that type of stuff to give it some texture. So my opponent was like, okay, you're shooting your las cannons into my Land Raider. There is a rock here, and because it is partially obscuring the Land Raider in any capacity based on the rules, I get a 5-up cover save. I'm like, what rock, dude? I'm like, that's the texture of the board. Come on, man. So in that case, I just couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. So if we agree to disagree and I can't call someone over to make a ruling, then often what I'll suggest is like, look, let's dice it off. 1 to 3, in this case, you got cover. 4, 5, 6, no cover. But honestly, that doesn't always work out either because I abide by the rules, but someone else, they're like, if they get it, great. If they didn't get it, they'll be salty the rest of the game. Which goes back to, again, usually I'll just say, okay, if that's what you want. If you're curious how that one ends, because I remembered, I agreed, okay, look, cover save, fine. Rules is written, that's there. Make your cover save. He got the cover save, but I later suicide melt-a-gunned him, so took that out there. But Battletech's a little bit different, I think a little bit more open-ended with the rules. So dragging a mech back to deny loss of initiative. Yes, no. How would you handle it? And a bigger Battletech question, given the interaction of the mechs and the rules and stuff, when someone wants to do something off script, how do you handle it?